It's time for episode number 71 of Get Real with Rajiv. And in this week's episode, I'm going to be answering questions around how do you deal with the emotion of feeling bad when you've been sold something that you don't need, especially when you are in a poor financial situation. I'm also going to answer the question of how do you build a brand which is pan-India when you have other big products that are already existing and are big brands. I'm also going to answer a question around in a market where you have products which are big brands and are high priced, and you have products which are low priced but low quality, but you have a product which is high quality but moderately priced. How do you deal with that situation to make sure that your business is growing? And finally, I'm going to answer the question of should you follow up hard like most sales coaches recommend you to do? If you'd like answers to these questions, then tune into episode number 71 of Get Real with Rajiv. I look forward to seeing you there. Hello everyone, welcome to episode number 71 of Get Real with Rajiv. Like every single week, I'm going to be answering 4 questions, and today Pawan is going to be the voice of your questions. So Pawan, what's the first question?
We have A. Kumar asking how to deal with feeling bad when people get influenced by a pitch and buy a product or service they may not need in spite of having a very bad financial situation.
Well, Kumar, some of your most powerful lessons come by making mistakes around money. Because you learn more about your money habits, your money behaviors only when you make mistakes. So firstly, focus on the lesson rather than blaming yourself or blaming the other person for that mistake. Now, am I justifying people who sell their products unethically to people who even don't need them? No, I'm not doing that. But for me, what's important, Kumar, is you. And that's where what I want you to know is you need to save yourself from this trap of blame. Think about it. If you're busy blaming that person saying, I did not have money and that person influenced me and persuaded me to buy this and I fell into that trap, what is happening is you're not taking responsibility for your own choices and your own decisions. And anybody who's not taking responsibility for their own choices and decisions cannot do too much with their own life. So stop blaming that person for the sake of yourself. Now, sometimes people say, yeah, Rajiv, I'm taking responsibility for my own choices and my own decisions. That's why I'm feeling bad. Well, in that case, you're not taking responsibility. You are actually blaming yourself. Because when you blame yourself, you know what you actually end up doing is you increase self-doubt. You stop trusting yourself, which is not healthy as well. Taking responsibility is very different from blaming. Firstly, when you blame others, you fall into the trap of mistrust. You make this belief saying you should never trust people, or you should never trust people of this profession, or you should never trust people who are doing so and so things. So you don't want to build a macro belief of mistrust on people by blaming others. Neither do you want to build a macro belief of not trusting yourself and increasing your self-doubt by blaming yourself. So be aware of the trap of blame firstly, Kumar. The key is to take responsibility. What does it mean by taking responsibility? Taking responsibility actually means where you turn on your observation on your own thought process, what led you to make that decision to purchase that product or service, where you did not even think whether it is relevant for you or not. And learning your lesson from that. And from there, learning the lesson that, hey, it's about testing before you trust. It's about evaluating the need before you buy and making conscious financial decisions and not getting carried away by pitches of people. If you're able to learn that lesson, Kumar, and you're not being harsh on yourself, I think that in itself is a very, very valuable takeaway for yourself. So think that you spend that money on learning this lesson. So that was your investment to learn this lesson, Kumar. I hope this makes you feel lighter, makes you feel better, and helps you let go of blame towards the other person or towards yourself. With that, let's go to the second question for the week. So Pawan, what's the second question?
We have Anish Rajani asking how to market and take a brand of an edible oil pan-India when there are competitors like Fortune and Dhara.
Well, Anish, the vision of taking your edible oil brand pan-India is a great vision. But let me tell you something, that's not your next step. Right now, you need to ask yourself, what's the next step for my business? Because I'll tell you, this question of how to take my business pan-India when there is competition like Fortune or Dhara actually does more harm to you than it does good to you. Because when you ask such a question, you don't have the visibility to that answer. And when you don't have the visibility to that answer, it reduces your confidence and it does not make you feel good about your business. You always feel lost then. I have seen far too many people struggling and feeling lost because they are looking for a map to a destination that is so far-fetched instead of looking at what's the next step, what's the next milestone for my business. So Anish, I would ask you to ask yourself, what's the next milestone for your business? Look, it may not even be necessary for you to consider a Fortune or a Dhara as your competition, because they need to be present pan-India to cover the overheads and the costs that they have at the scale of operations that they operate. For you, at the scale of operations that you operate, you need to ask yourself, what would be a good enough target market to capture, what would be a good enough size to scale the business to as a next level, and take the business to that next level. Ask the questions that will come in the way, or that you need to come up with solutions to take that business to that next milestone before you think of a pan-India vision. I'm just trying to simplify your life, Anish. I'm not trying to discourage you to have that big vision, but I feel that sometimes these big vision questions leave us more confused than they actually do good for us. So I hope that makes sense, Anish. So the most important question for you to ask yourself is, what's that next milestone for me as a business? Get there, and from there ask the question of what's the next milestone from there, and then from there ask the question of what's the next milestone from there. And who knows, Dhara or Fortune may either buy you out and help you cash out in a big way, or you may give them a good run for their money where they may surrender to you in certain markets, and you can probably reach that journey, or you can reach that destination by going through this journey, because business is at the end of the journey. So I hope that makes sense, Anish. With that, let's go to the third question for this week. What's the third question, Pawan?
We have Rupam Agarwal asking, mine is a paint company, and what I've observed in the market is that there are two divisions. There's either a branded high quality product which comes at a high price, or there's a local product which comes with low quality and low price. My products, however, are high quality and come at a reasonable price when compared to the big brands. But what I hear when I visit a new client is that ours is not a brand, and it will be difficult for them to sell it at the price that we are selling, or for them to buy it at the price that we are selling. Kindly let me know how to pitch my products here.
Well, Rupam, firstly, what I would say is, don't try to change the rules of the market. Now, what you need to understand is this. The market has two segments. There's one segment that buys the brand, and there's another segment that buys the price. So that's why you have one segment which is high quality, high price, which is getting sold not based on its quality or its price. It's getting sold based on its brand value. And then there you have the other segment that is low quality, low price, and it's not getting sold because of its quality. It's getting sold because of its price. So the market that you're operating in has two segments of customers itself. One who buy a brand, the other who buy a price. Now you are in between, and there is nobody buying whatever you're offering in between, which is a moderate price at a high quality. Now, for you to be able to sell this product, which is a moderate price at a high quality, you need to increase awareness, which means you need to increase the brand awareness of your product or service. So you need to build a brand. Now you may say, Rajiv, I know I need to build a brand, but I don't have the financial resources, I don't have the infrastructure, I don't have the network to build a brand. Well, if you don't have the financial resources, if you don't have the infrastructure, if you don't have the network to build a brand, then don't worry about the larger market. Here's what I would do. I would focus on micro markets. Start with a town or a district or a city. Capture the market and become the biggest brand in that market. Okay, so go focused and make sure you build and bring the biggest brand awareness in that market for your product. Now, when you do that, one town, one city, one district at a time, and over a period of time, you keep adding towns, districts, cities, and states, that's how you are growing your brand. Now, I know that's an organic journey. I know that's a slow journey, but that's the direction you have to take if you don't have the resources. And as you take that direction, you will become a more investable proposition, which means when you're the most dominating player in a particular region, then you have a good enough story to pitch your business to potential investors and raise money and use that capital for brand building activities at a larger geographical scale. So I would say your next immediate challenge is to make sure that you go focused and you build a brand in a micro region before you are investable for you to scale up and increase your reach, increase your brand awareness. I hope that makes sense, Rupam. Don't deny or defy the rules of the market. People are either buying a brand or they are buying the price. So either become the most known or become the cheapest, because those are the two segments that exist as per your question. So I hope this answer gives you some direction and value. With that, let's go to the fourth and final question for this week's episode of Get Real with Rajiv. So Pawan, what's the fourth question?
We have AYT842 on Instagram asking us, do we really need to follow up very hard as some sales coaches tell?
Well, AYT_842, I'm sure your parents didn't name you that, but let me answer your question because you've asked a very good question. Consider this, follow-up is a must. Follow-up is important, and the reason why a lot of sales trainers or sales coaches emphasize on follow-up is because most people don't do follow-ups and they leave a lot of money on the table. So follow-up as a behavior, as an activity, absolute necessity. But what I disagree to is what you've mentioned in your question, follow up hard. Let me tell you one thing, following up is a skill. It's not just a barbaric activity where you're on the head of the customer saying, when will you buy, when will you buy, when will you buy? Because think about it, the more you push, the more they push you away. So follow-up is the art, and the secret mantra of the art of follow-up is persist with patience without pressure. I'll repeat that for you. Write this down wherever you can write it down. You got to persist with patience without pressure. Which means what? Persist means you got to be consistent in your follow-up. But when you are following up, in that communication, you have to show patience and you have to make sure that there is no pressure on the customer. So that is a skill, to persist, which means to stay consistent, but do it with patience, where you are not stopping your follow-up activity, but you're willing to wait for the customer. You're willing to wait for the customer to make that decision. That is the patience you need. And you got to do it without pressure, because nobody likes pressure. Okay, in fact, the more pressure you put, the more they start avoiding you, the more they start running away from you. So following up is a skill, and it's a skill largely of having the right conversations. It's not just about picking up the call or sending emails and saying, hey, just checking, did you guys make a decision? I mean, that's meaningless. That's not even called follow-up. Okay. The key is to have some kind of a conversational engagement with the client, where you're asking them questions on how you can help them make a closing decision. What are the questions that they are right now thinking about or considering, which you can help them answer, so that you can help them gain clarity, not help them just close, but gain clarity whether your product is the right product for them and you are the right partner for them or not. So remember, firstly, the intention, the final objective of follow-up is not closing the sale and getting the deal. The final objective of follow-up is helping the customer make a decision. Yes or a no, both are a decision, and one really has to respect both those decisions of the customer. Salespeople who only want a yes actually end up with more no's, and they also lose relationships with people. So follow-up is a skill, it's a science, it's a fine art of balance between persistence and patience without any pressure. I hope that makes sense to you. So should you follow up? Yes. Should you follow up hard? Definitely not. You got to follow up with a lot of grace. That's the most important part of a follow-up. So with that, we come to the end of episode number 71 of Get Real with Rajiv. I hope you're finding these episodes useful. If you are, type out in the comment section below what have been your key lessons from today's episode. And I'm going to ask you to do one important thing. If you like what you learn at Get Real with Rajiv, make sure you share it with at least 3 friends. Tag those 3 friends in the comment section below or share it on your timeline. And if you have more questions, put them in the comment section below, and I look forward to answering those questions for you in the upcoming episodes of Get Real with Rajiv. This is me, Rajiv Taleja, signing off. I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.